Hey, welcome to Classic Performance. We've got a great upload for you today. We're going to be spotlighting the 911 SC, one of my favorite sports cars of all time, the Porsche 911, in particular the 911 SC, a very popular Porsche. They produced the SCs from 78 to 1983, and they produced almost 59,000 of these units. So not a rare car, but a very popular car, and one of the most robust and reliable Porsche 911s ever produced. So this SC right here is a 1982 version, so that is the 204 horsepower version, powered by, of course, the 3-liter motor. From 81 to 83, they were 204 horsepower, and that's the European spec. The United States, they were more around 180, and the horsepower, over the years went up, with the maximum being 81 through 83, with about the 200 horsepower 3-liter motor. It's got a 9.3 compression ratio. Curb weight on this car is 2,750 pounds, and one of the nice things about it too is it holds a little over 21 gallons. So you can fill this thing up and you can go forever, because it does get very good fuel economy and also has a fairly large fuel tank up front. So let's take a look at the 911 SC. Now, with this car, of course, it is a sunroof car. Actually, most of them were sunroof cars. You would think, oh, the sunroof would be more desirable, but actually, the sunroof delete cars are really more desirable than the sunroof car, because so many of them came with a sunroof. But what you don't think about when you think about these SC cars is all these cars came with power amenities. This car has, of course, right here, cruise control. Cruise control, it has intermittent wipers. It has power windows. It has power mirrors. The only thing it really doesn't have is power locks. So let's just take a look. I'll even put I guess I'll open the sunroof to give us a little bit more light in here. So I'll turn the key on right here. And, these things are not really marked. You got a couple of switches here and there. You got another little switch, right here. But this particular switch underneath here operates the sunroof. And unlike sunroofs of modern cars, these particular sunroofs make a very nice German mechanical sound. So it's a cable and gear driven mechanism, and it works very well. So anyway, this is your sunroof right here. This little switch rocks back and forth. That is for adjusting the mirrors, the electric mirrors. So we have our key on, put our switch to the left, and you can look at this mirror and it will go up and down and left and right. And of course it makes a nice German sound as well. But the power mirrors work on this car. The horn works. The clock works on it. Everything on it works. This is your battery indicator light right here. So if we're wondering if we're charging, if we're not, the light will come on. Low oil pressure. We also have an oil pressure gauge, a temperature gauge right here, which is a cylinder head temperature gauge. Here's our gas tank right here at half a tank, and our oil. And this is not oil pressure right here like what they say right over here, the Druck press. This is actually oil that is the oil level, because it's a dry sump system, and in the right rear fender it will have an oil containment tank. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But anyway, this car fires right up beautifully, idles exactly at 900 RPM, and we did put a fresh motor in this car, but if you take a look, it has over 200,000 miles on it, and it just runs beautifully. So these cars are incredibly robust, and we'll come back in another upload and take this car for a drive. But anyway, that's kind of your interior overview. I'll show you a couple other things here. We've got our headlights right here. We've got our emergency flashers. And then this is our driver window, passenger window right here, up and down, power windows. And of course you've got your, well, we're not coming on here. There we are. Our his and her reading lamps right here. And then of course, like any other air-cooled car, like a Volkswagen even, you've got your heater controls right here. So these levers up right here are heat on, and down is heat off, and anywhere in between adjust the temperature. Now, interestingly enough, here. This car has air conditioning too. So this, as you can hear, it is our fan control, and it has 4 speeds. And then this right here is our temperature. So if we want it colder, we leave it all the way to one side. If we want it to be warmer, and the compressor will cycle off and on thermostatically, we adjust this one here. Now, like most German cars and German cars of the 80s, the air conditioning systems are incredibly ineffective for the car, especially this one being a black car with a black interior. So you would not be turning that down to reduce the temperature. You want all the temperature and all the fan speed you can. And this is still an R12 system, and it actually works pretty well. But one thing you'll notice, you have this large center vent right here, and then your other air conditioning vent is this little tiny one over here, and of course one on the other side that's just as small. So you don't get the airflow out of this system that you would in a modern car. So anyway, that is kind of the interior overview. And just like any Porsche, your center instrument and your largest instrument is of course the tachometer. So that's the overview. Let's go take a look at the a little bit on the exterior, and then we'll go back to the business end of things and look at that 3-liter flat 6. So while I'm right here and getting out of the car, this release right here is for our front hood, and this release right here in the fender is for our engine compartment. So we'll go ahead and pull those. And one thing on the outside of this car you might have picked up on, and you'll see the wheels on this car are actually the Fuchs 16-inch Porsche 911 turbo wheels. The turbo wheels, also known as the Porsche 930, which is the turbo variant of this 911. But what they did was, and of course the turbo has wider body work on it and so forth, but wheel wise, this front wheel right here on a 911 SC is actually the back dimension. So what they did is they took the rear wider wheel on an SC, moved it to the front, and then went an inch wider on the rear. So really, in Porsche 930 production, they're only producing one more wheel, but they're just taking the back wheel of a 911 SC and moving it to the front. So actually, the 911 Turbo has a wider wheel dimension by 1 inch all the way around, because every SC has a 1 inch diameter or 1 inch width difference between the backs and the fronts. So does the 930. But overall, the 930 wheels are just 1 inch wider, but they will fit on a 911 SC. Another thing we did on this car is we powder coated the calipers doing a brake job, put slotted rotors on it, and just a couple of other things that are just general maintenance. We did pull this motor on this car since it has 200,000 on it. Went through the motor. This has aluminum castings, not magnesium like the earlier cars, but we went ahead and powder coated all the tins, bead blasted all the aluminum. It's kind of hard to see in there. Carrera tensioner upgrades and so forth. And I was mentioning that this has the oil level sensor in it for the oil tank. The oil tank is right over here on the side. You can see here, this is where you fill the oil. The dipstick is here, the oil filter. This whole side of the car is an oil tank. And what that does is it contains the oil from the dry sump system. In other words, the dry sump system has no oil pan. So it scavenges the oil out of the bottom of the motor, sends it to the tank, and pumps it from the tank into the motor. We'll go underneath and take a look and see if I can show you what that oil tank looks like. Yeah, it's not really at all easy to see, but this is the oil tank right here, and this is the plug, and this is the rear tire. So the tank is in the side of this fender right here, and of course the car itself has no oil pan, so to speak of. It's just the bottom of the casing with the inspection plate right here in the middle that you could take off, that might drain maybe a quart out. But anyway, the majority of the oil is in here, and which is also the side of this tank. Now the oil lines too of this car do run up front, and there is an oil cooler up here as well, which is just a series of pipes that go along the inside of the wheel well. Now I talked about on this car the 930 wheels on it, but what else is worth mentioning too is that this car has been lowered. These cars came to North America with a much higher riding height in the front and rear because of the US North American bumper height mandates. So these cars were much higher right here. We'll go back to the shop and take a look at our red project car, and I'll show you the difference in the height of the body here compared to the tire. So we're back here in the shop, and you can kind of see the difference, how much narrower this front wheel is than the front wheel on the black SC, because this is an SC wheel and not a turbo wheel. You can also see the significant difference here in this North American ride height. And then, as I mentioned before, this back wheel, as you can see, it's a little bit wider right here. So this on the 930 is the wheel that they would have put in the front and put the wider ones on the back, just to give it a 1 inch wider all the way around on the 930 turbo. And while we're at the back of the car here, these rubber bumpers, some people call them a rubber tit, much larger on the US spec car. They're a much smaller bumper, rubber bumper or bumperette thing on the European cars. Also, the European cars have an amber light right here. US spec cars, North American cars, red all the way around. And on most of the SCs, you would have on the European car, an amber turn signal right here. And what we did on this car, it had the US spec seal beams. We went ahead and changed them out and put the H4 European halogens in the front of it. Just gives it a little better look and much better lighting on the road. There's not a whole heck of a lot to see under the hood. You got your fuse panel right here, master cylinder up here. You've got a space saver spare right down here, and of course our old license plate. December 2004, that's when this car came from Laguna Beach, California. This was a California car since new. This was a one-owner California car, and we've had it since here at Classic Performance since 2004. And this car is also equipped with headlight washers. You got a washer here, and you got a washer right over here, and you've got a little switch on the dash that has a little spray, another little toggle to the right of the steering wheel, which sprays your headlights. And you know, if those things are really dirty, I don't think a little bit of a spray from that squirter is going to do a whole lot. So anyway, that's our look around at the 1982 Porsche 911 SC Super Carrera here on Classic Performance. We're going to come back next week. We're going to hit the road in this car, take it for a ride, put it through its paces, show you how everything works and sounds on the road. So if you like classic cars, vintage Porsches, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button, and stay tuned as we hit the road in this car next.